This call is now being recorded.
Oh, shit. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Today is the October, boy, I'm already in November. I'm thinking holidays already. October 16th, 2024 Sustainable Bethel Commission meeting. My name is Catherine Hebert, and I am the chairman. Before we get started, we will stand up and do pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, Mary, did you get any emails or calls or anything?
I did not.
Okay, great. So this part of the agenda is for public comment. And for those of you not familiar, the way it works is if you have a public comment, you talk, we listen. There's no dialogue in our regular meetings. So are there any public comments? Please raise your hand if there are public comments. And please state your name and your address.
Do I need to stand up?
You don't have to, it's up to you.
My name is James Keene. Address is 114 Knollwood Drive. I just wanted to highlight a couple things. I'm excited for this presentation. I think the pedestrian infrastructure in Bethel is haphazard at best. And, from everything to like incomplete sidewalks to sidewalks that literally lead to nowhere to, downtown is relatively seamless as far as sidewalks go, but once you get outside of that, half mile, 3/4 mile sort of radius, it kind of falls apart. I think we need more walkability in town. I think, I think we don't need more parking lots, we need more green space. And, if people can access downtown, for example, from further away, just by walking or riding a bike, they're likely to not use their cars, and therefore kind of solve the issue with parking because they just have fewer cars driving downtown. And just from a purely pragmatic point of view, meeting certain sustainability criteria entitles us to funds from the state. So, from that point of view, I think everyone should be able to do what your commission is doing. So, maybe with that.
Thank you. Is there any? Oh,
Rebecca Hussey, 73 Linda Lane. First of all, I very much agree with everything that James said. Walkability is hugely important. People complain about traffic, and if we made it easier for walking and biking to happen in town, that makes it easier for people to get around without their cars, and that would ease the traffic problem. I agree. We don't need more parking lots. We need more ways of getting around. I also want to say I'm just a big fan of the Sustainability Commission and think that it should be a permanent part of our town. It's a part, it's something that touches everything that goes on in town. Sustainability is like part of everything from transportation to the arts, and it should be part of every conversation that happens in town, and a permanent fixture within our town government. And then I'll just say the last thing I personally do a lot of walking and riding around town. And so I'm aware of, how tricky it can be, how dangerous it can be. I'm happy to do it anyway, but not everybody is. And so any work that the town can do to make it safer and easier for pedestrians and cyclists, it's going to, as I said before, make it easier for people to get out of cars, keep us all safe, make us a healthier town, improve air quality. So many benefits to the work that this commission does. So thank you.
thank you.
Penny Kessler, 22 Springfield Lane. It's always been frustrating to me that I go to different cities and different towns whenever we travel, and if we should take our bikes or if we should rent bikes, there are a lot of towns that are very accessible. Yes, Bethel has a lot of hills, and personally for me, taking the bike down my hill is a whole lot easier than getting it back up. But if I were to bring her down, but bring my bike with me and then wanting to ride around town, it's almost impossible to do that. I'm not a great bicycle rider. I'm kind of poor at it actually, and it scares the daylights out of me. I will also say that the sidewalks in Bethel, once you get off Greenwood Avenue, the sidewalks are a mess. And I will frequently walk downtown to, a couple of, a mile or two downtown. It scares the daylights out of me. Just because I can't focus on looking forward. I have got to be focused on the sidewalk. And if I walk in the street, that's another problem because then I have to be focused on the car coming at me or the car going around me. So I say, bravo to all the work that's being done. I'm looking forward to listening and to hearing.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody who is on the Google Meets from the public, would you like to say something? Okay, so I'm going to close this portion of the agenda. I forgot to put the approval of the minutes from our September meeting on the agenda. So I'd like to make a motion to add the acceptance of the minutes from September 18th, 24. Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And with that, we are going to have a presentation on the walk audit that we performed in May. Gabriela Hernandez, who is our vice chairman, will be giving this presentation, but I just want to introduce a couple of things before she presents. We did this at the beginning related to the requirement that we had for the Sustainable Connecticut certification, which we were approved for the bronze certification. Yay. But that aside, this walk audit also has data and information that it will inform and has informed the town of Bethel that Gabriella is presenting tonight and can be used and will be used, and I believe it already has been used for grant funding to implement some of the recommendations that Gabriella will talk about. The other thing that I want to mention is the data, the information, also is an important component of, we already have this as part of our planning of conservation and development, is a complete street type of conceptual design. And what is complete streets? Complete streets is transportation, which includes mobility for everyone. So it does include cars, it includes pedestrians, it includes transit, biking, deliveries, it includes everything. So it's to create mobility and transportation that is safe and accessible. The other component that is important for all of this that we're doing here in Sustainable Bethel Commission is to layer that in with a Vision Zero type of concept. And what's Vision Zero? So Vision Zero says, I'm going to be very simple here. Vision Zero says that the concept is it includes engineering, enforcement, and education, and it is a way to reduce or zero out any pedestrian deaths and crashes. Now we're never, I don't think in our life we're going to see zero, but we certainly need to reduce that. There was an article that came out just a couple of weeks ago related to that the governor gave a presentation on the pedestrian deaths in the state of Connecticut that have increased substantially in the last several years. So these projects that we're doing related to sustainability, related to walkability, bikeability, everybody being able to share our roads together, no matter what kind of transportation you use, is really important to Complete Streets and Vision Zero. So with that, Gabriella, you have the floor. Gabriella was the project lead with Kelly Calderasi, who is online because she is in Florida right now, helping some of with the Hurricane Milton people. So go ahead. So I can just make it more simple. You wanna? Oh yeah, we'll switch dates. Yes, yes.
Hi, everybody. Just to add a little bit to what Catherine mentioned, as part of the Sustainable Connecticut certification process for bronze, the walk audit itself was part of what was called the equity toolkit, and it basically centered as equity into whatever project that had impact in the community. And through surveys and different engagements, we were able to determine that Bethel residents really wanted to focus on health and wellness, walkability of the town, and generally just improvements to the infrastructure of the town over time. In conversation with the first selectman and economic development, like Catherine mentioned, the plan of conservation and development, we able to determine that the Stony Hill area really needed some focus and some attention so that change can happen there. And the concern in the Stony Hill Route 6 area is generally around the infrastructure, the development that's happening, and a big issue is the traffic and the sidewalks that are not complete, and not all of them are ADA compliant. For those of you who may not know, the ADA is the Americans with Disability Act that essentially protects people with disability from discrimination in areas of public life. So being able to get around town is one of those things. The dangerous intersections, there are no or very minimal crosswalks in the area without sound or tactile, anything that can help people with limited visual or limited walking. So the existing sidewalks are partial and do not have access to either cross the street or to get onto the sidewalk. Public transit is also a concern. It is extremely limited there. The bus stops are either missing or have damage, or there are features that are missing to make it more accessible and safer while you wait. Another concern we've heard is the speed is always a concern for pedestrians. It is a lot of those intersections see a lot of accidents and traffic. Just to visualize the area we focused on. So really from Old Hollyville and Stony Hill, right, that major intersection right there, all the way to Barnyard. So includes in front of the Big Y and all of those little shops and smaller strip malls, all the way to Barnyard. And we focused going the opposite direction, all the way towards Weed Road. So we noticed that a lot of people wanted to add a lot of other areas just because it is a major concern for them. And one of the ones that kept coming up was including walking down Old Hollyville to Mitchell Park. This is just an example of the flyers and explanations that we used to promote the event that happened in May. Again, the goal was to include as many voices and perspectives as possible. When Kelly and I went out to all of the local businesses, to some of the surrounding residential areas, and what's it called? The Copper Square. Thank you. And we weren't allowed to post things around, but I tried to get to the bus stops that were in the area, sent it over to some people that picked it up and posted it onto the Facebook, since it wasn't something that was able to be promoted inside. We use community calendars, newsletters, and bulletins around town to spread the word. And we focused the audit with the AARP Walk Audit Toolkit, and it's a really great tool. It was sort of a one-stop shop in terms of everything we would need to make photocopies. The actual audit itself is a checklist, so it was really easy for lots of different people to use. A walk audit can gather input from about the community infrastructure that needs investment. Also educate the residents about design elements that support safety and empower the community members and local leaders to become agents of change. The walk audit can also lead to reduced traffic congestion and pollution, healthier and more active lifestyles, increased property values, and safer streets for people of all ages and mobilities. Just a picture of us the day of during the event. Let me just flip through the pictures. Again, trying to make us visible and accessible. We ended up using the parking lot at the Wells Fargo that is not being used, or the old Wells Fargo that's building right near the Dunkin' Donuts and Big Y. And we had clipboards and printouts and started off with volunteers going off into the different areas of the whole strip. People walked towards Weed Road, others walked towards Barnyard, some walked down to Mitchell Park. And they all had the same toolkit, but we're noticing and capturing the different areas of the walk audit. The observations, I forgot to do this. In total, we had 25 Bethel residents. So thank you so much, all the volunteers. We completed 9 audit toolkits and 1 bicycle audit. So it's a very similar tool, but focused on bicycle infrastructure that was captured in May as well. So thank you to Rebecca and all the other volunteers who participated on May 18th. And part of the toolkit was to be able to draw in, and not just take pictures, which we have some that you'll see in a minute, but also include a drawn perspective of what the intersections with issues that are being observed. And also, I know some people you'll see later on in the presentation also added potential solutions. But you can see the different intersections of Copper Square. Every intersection essentially is an issue area because it's a high traffic area without crosswalks generally. And it was a lovely spring day, but there weren't too many people walking around except those walking their dogs. The sidewalks end abruptly or not continuous. Ultimately, the crosswalks that do exist, the button or beacons as they call them, don't always work, or they don't always stop traffic. So essentially, it's a really dangerous road to cross, whether you're crossing from Old Hollywood to Redwood, or entering to one of the strip malls like the Mount Laurel Plaza. It is not the best to be able to get around on foot. Here is a image capturing the crosswalk button, the beacon. Again, if you are in a wheelchair, if you have some sort of walker, if you anything that you would need to help yourself move would be extremely difficult to get over there. Even someone with perfect mobility, it's still a dangerous situation to be in right there. Here's an example of another map. You can see that they drew in the potential of a 4-way crossing intersection with the lines on the ground and the crossing signals and all of that. The area walking towards Barnyard, again, the observation is that the sidewalks are not continuous. They're on one side, not the other, and there is not any safe crossing to get from the side where Barnyard is to the side where Big Y is. An example of where a sidewalk could be. Here, it's a driveway to, I think, Mount Laurel, if I'm remembering correctly. And again, there's no real way to cross in or cross out, capturing the lack of sidewalk. And some constructions. Here's a perfect example of, here is a sidewalk that began, but then where do they lead? And again, if you're able to walk over, sure, no problem, but it limits who can get around safely, that's for sure. I think this is an image of a potential crossing point that would be really beneficial in terms of health and wellness and just accessing open space in town. It's right where the Stony Hill, oh, what is it called? Yes, thank you. Where the Bethel Farmers Market is held on the weekend. So it's a really popular spot that has great things on either side. So being able to connect those would be ideal for residents. Again, just sort of neat. Capturing here on one side is the sidewalk, but not so much. It's okay. This one? No, the next one. There we go. I don't know if it's that visible from here on the screen, but on the other side there isn't a sidewalk. It's just a guardrail. Now, looking into from the actual intersection of Stony Hill and Old Hollyville Road, it's a major intersection without pedestrian crossing. There's no crosswalk. There isn't any crossing signal or beacons. There is a sidewalk on the southwest corner with Old Hollyville that does not have access to the actual intersection. So again, those incomplete ramps that limit the accessibility. A lot of accidents happen in that intersection. One of the other, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the turn left is also really hard in that intersection if you're on Old Hollyville turning onto Stony Hill. This is an image of the intersection as it was in May, and yep, there's no safe way of getting across. I believe I used the same map again. I think it just illustrates exactly where the crosswalks could be. There's very little public transit in the area. There aren't always sidewalks near the bus stops, and there aren't any ramps near the bus stops or to the bus stops. There's no shelter or any sort of feature that can keep people safe from the weather. The bus stop in front of the firehouse isn't accessible. It's just sort of on a mound of grass. And the Copper Square side bus stop is, well, at this moment in time, it was missing. I'm not sure if it's been replaced as of yet, but at the time it was missing. So you didn't necessarily know that there was a bus stop there. Here's the image. This is a different bus stop, but again, the same problem of just sort of being in this island of grass with no ramp to get onto the bus itself or all of that. Another map, this is a little bit harder to tell, but if you take a moment to zoom in, you'll see a lot of detail about where, what was being observed, sort of where the intersections that are problematic are. Now, Stony Hill Road and Benedict Road, and the frequency of the traffic lights are causing heavy traffic. While the concern is also the increase in traffic with the new housing that's being constructed, the speed limits being respected by cars, And Gorilla Road has issues with speeding through the road with dogs and kids. So I think generally people are bypassing some of these intersections by going into the residential streets, and that's causing a lot of dangerous situations for those walking around on streets that also don't have sidewalks. But again, it's a more residential area, so the speed limits that are posted are in fact slower. So that's a concern for those that focus on that area. This area focuses on the walk down to Mitchell Park. So from Stony Hill and Old Hollyville, walking down to the baseball park area, the side where the Dunks is does not have a sidewalk at all, and that is a side that captured in this audit stated that a lot of children do use that side to get from the field down to the restaurants in the corner. There is no buffer as well between walking on the grassy part of the road of the sidewalk, or lack of sidewalk, but walking on the grass, there's very little bumper to the actual street. So cars driving past, it's a bit of a concern for those children walking during the baseball season. There isn't any indicator or signage for the intersection of Old Hollyville and Stony Hill. The crossing light there is a crosswalk from the baseball field side to the Big Y side, but it doesn't necessarily have any major flashing lights, or you can't stop traffic or anything like that. So it is still potentially dangerous for people crossing, and the public transportation just does not exist down this road. The side on the Big Y side does have a sidewalk. It is narrow, but it does exist, and it does connect to the existing crosswalk from the east side to the west side. But again, it alerts drivers of pedestrians, but it doesn't stop traffic when somebody's trying to cross. The walkability of the east side is great. It's good. And the walkability on the west side of Old Hollyville is poor, as captured by the audits. And here are some observations captured in the bike audit. There aren't any signage, any alert system for drivers to be aware of cyclists. There aren't any bicycle lanes or car-free paths. There isn't any traffic lights dedicated to cyclists. And again, the no crosswalks. And we also do not have bicycle parking. There aren't any safety buffers for cyclists from the moving vehicles. Some of the riding surfaces are poor to low quality. There are cracks and uneven pavement or potholes, or different debris. There's drainage grates and things like that that may cause a hazard because you have to ride around it to get by. It does not appear safe for users of all ages, abilities, and demographics. I think generally that means that there aren't enough safety features for people to walk comfortably and safely at any time. And lastly, just in summary, the sidewalks are mixed to poor. The ones that do exist generally are fine and perform well. And then the streets and crossings are mixed to poor, meaning that there aren't enough or adequately placed crossings with enough signage for safety. So that means that the street safety and appeal is mixed, and generally the public transit access is rather poor in the area. Again, just a remind of the area we're talking about. So why should the streets be pedestrian friendly? The street should be because it benefits the health and wellness, the independence, a variety of mobilities, all ages, without the need for cars. Those who don't drive or don't have access to a car should still be able to walk safely or ride public transportation to stores and businesses all over, near and far from their homes. If people can walk safely to shopping centers, grocery store, banks, salons, all the different restaurants and medical offices that are located within the area, people will be able to have fewer cars on the road, which means less pollution, less traffic, and more available parking to those that require cars for their mobility. Yes, and that way people can shop safely at their convenience. Another reason to consider why these are beneficial changes, that local workers and employees, business owners should be able to walk safely from lunch to run errands, do deposits at the bank, whatever the case may be, for different businesses to function without driving to get across the street, since that may be the safer option for people. Again, the more people are able to walk and use public trans, the more parking is available and less pollution overall. Some of the possible solutions that were highlighted by all of the audits, I highlighted the ones that were marked more than once by the different audit groups and individuals, to highlight some, wider sidewalks, safety barriers to the sidewalks, landscaping, crosswalks, raised crosswalks to slow cars down, pedestrian bulb outs at intersections. And essentially it's a piece of sidewalk that sort of jets out where you can stand and look to see if it's safe to cross. So it's just an additional sidewalk barrier for pedestrians. Pedestrian islands or pedestrian friendly lighting. Some other ones were outdoor seating, public art, shelter from the elements for public trans, street trees and landscaping, drinking fountains, and trash receptacles. Litter was definitely another thing we noticed and captured in these audits. This is part of the AARP toolkit. It gave a list of vocabulary and and again, it's just different examples of what the potential solutions could be. Mentioning the complete street concept, like Catherine mentioned in the introduction. Essentially, it's focusing on everybody that uses the street, not just cars. So pedestrians, cyclists, all of that. All right, possible solutions. The signalized with flashing lights, raised crosswalks to yield to pedestrian signs. And prompting signal timing requiring the vehicles to stop. Possible solutions are ADA compliant sidewalks, curb cuts, ramps with tactile ground surfaces indicators, so that people can cross the street safely. Some of the suggested crosswalks along Stony Hill Road would be at Old Hollyville, at Redwood Drive, at the entrance of the Bethel Shopping Center, which is the Big Y Center, Weed Road, the intersection with Copper Square Drive, and near the Stony Hill Fire Department and the farmers market grant, the Center for Agriculture would be, which is highlighted by the map. Yes, please, thank you. Sorry. Some of the other suggestions are rotaries or roundabouts or traffic circles. I placed all three because they technically all serve different functions, but they're all sort of round and mitigate the flow of traffic. On Benedict Road, also near the Weed Road and Copper Square intersection, a four-way crosswalk with connected to the 4 sidewalks at Old Hollyville, and a traffic signal for the left turn from Stony Hill Road onto Hollyville Road. Yeah, so turning left to go down Old Hollyville and turning left to go down Stony Hill. Essentially, things to help mitigate the flow of traffic so that it is safer to cross the street. Other solutions can be tree canopy, adding to the, as summers get hotter, it cools the place down so it's easier and less, less sunny to walk over the summer. Something that we noticed when we were capturing during the walk audit. Adding the sidewalk to both sides of this Old Hollyville towards Walnut Hill to get to the Bethel Park area. And again, just generally being open and willing to try solutions that have all users in mind, whether it's walking, riding, driving, rolling, wheelchairs, mobility aids, strollers, or using public transportation. The more, the merrier for safety features. This is the possible solutions for the bicycle audit, and secure bike parking is definitely a big one. They improve safety sidewalks, pedestrian crossings, shelter from the elements and green space, street trees and landscaping, and lower speed limits. But really the secured sort of buffer features for a bike lane would be great. Yep. The barrier protected bicycle lanes for the cyclists to be safe, car-free paths, signage alert and traffic lights alerting of cyclists, or signage and traffic lights dedicated to cyclists so that crossing could be safe. Crossing signals and raised crosswalks to be accessible with the continuous sidewalks, and lower speeds for vehicles. Suggested place for parking for bicycles would be at the Bethel Shopping Center near the Big Y or Starbucks, high traffic area. It would be a great place to sort of go park and walk around. Using trees and other safety barriers with landscaping, repairing riding surfaces, repairing potholes, cracks, and gaps and uneven spots to make riding and walking smoother, and just generally removing obstacles and debris from either construction or whatever the case may be. Other possible solutions are to collaborate with the HART transit system to update the bus stop locations on online databases like Google Maps for improved access. I know that the HART website itself has the bus routes, but you can't sort of plan a route on their site, at least not as of yet. So using other online databases like a Google Maps would be an option. And also just to collaborate with HART Transit to update and improve the accessibility of the bus stop locations with shelters and missing signage and just ramps and general accessibility for different people. Overall, it calls for collaboration between the Bethel Municipal Departments, boards and commission, Bethel residents and local business owners and workers, the local traffic authority, the Connecticut Department of Transportation, and whatever any other necessary agency to work, collaborate to essentially plan and implement the sustainable traffic calming safety features whose design has all users in mind and public health. The Bethel Municipal Department boards and commissions are recommended to review the current planning and zoning designations and building development codes to modify or add language to mitigate the growing concerns documented in this report. We're not suggesting anything in particular word for word at this moment, but the suggestion is that through these process of the audits and further study of the area so that the design can happen, the collaboration needs to be at the center to address the concerns. Hopefully new language and sustainable guidelines will aid the local owners and developers, contractors in correcting and maintaining the safety standards beneficial to all using the area. So it's not just designed for cars, but in fact it has pedestrians and others in mind. And in summary, lastly, the summary report has actually already been submitted, as Catherine mentioned, for a grant application with the WestCog, with the Western Connecticut Council
of Governments.
There you go. Thank you. For a grant seeking, from what I understand and remember, around $400,000 for planning and designing engineering, so that the sustainable traffic calming safety features and infrastructure can be designed with wheelchairs, mobility aids, strollers, all of that in mind, and again improving public transit. Just the map again. And I wanted to add that these concerns and issues of limited walkability and limited accessibility has existed prior to the Sustainable Bethel's Commission's involvement with the walk audit event. One resident who volunteered for the walk audit shared their prior communication with the Connecticut Department of Transportation, and I added a direct quote from that communication because it basically outlines the path for potential resolution when requesting installing a crosswalk at Route 6 Stony Hill and Old Hollyville Road. So although the road is a state road, the requests and suggestions should be reviewed by our town's local traffic authority, which is the police commission here in town. And then once they approve the plan put forth, then it is forwarded to the Department of Transportation for their process. And hopefully in the end, we have some safety features included in the Stony Hill, Old Hollyville area. And they even included an email specifically to get over for the town to send over for further review and approval. And they also included some helpful guidelines and resources that are linked. People can check them out. And that is all. So thank you so much for listening and participating. And
So as you all can see, there are a lot of great suggestions related to provide, and some of these are really not very costly. Some are where you're gonna redesign a road and putting in wider sidewalks, but bump outs, raised crosswalks, protected bike lanes, Stony Hill Road definitely can accommodate that because it's large. It's like a highway unto itself. Urban tree canopy is really important when it comes to pedestrian walkability. And again, I talked, and roundabouts, that is something that would have to be engineered, whether it would fit nicely in that area. I don't know from an engineering point of view. So I want to entertain any questions from the commission. Are there any comments from the commission?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of, like, if you're moving forward with any of these in the future, in addition to a tree canopy, we should also consider solar canopies. So that it serves the dual purpose. It's understood, so I'll not belabor the point.
Sorry, couldn't hear you. What was that?
To consider a solar canopy, because trees we have in abundance and in fact can become a hazard on the roads. So instead of that, I would look at solar canopies. And again, it goes with the whole sustainability agenda. We can plug it into it. So that's it.
Thank you. Yeah.
This is just a question, and more as a citizen, not as a commissioner. But I mean, to your point, I think tree, that's what it does. Well, I think Bethel is not walkable in general. So in areas where it is not possible to have if there are no existing sidewalks, I was curious to know if there was any discussion around it, the possibility to even go for something like, I think it's called eminent domain, where you can take part of, like, my house's property line and convert that into a sidewalk if residents who volunteer.
So-
Can I answer that real quick? So eminent domain is not typically something that municipalities want to do. That is like a real last resort in taking private property to construct any type of public good. Not to say that could be an option, but that is like such a last resort. For this, and for the grant that, where this study was used, will include, an engineering design on public property. Now, this is state property. I think for the most part, there might be something owned by Bethel, I have no idea. And again, I just want to emphasize that we don't want to, we're not promoting eminent domain.
No,
Okay,
just
but it's not to say that may happen. It does happen sometimes in municipal government and in state government and in federal government also, but it is really a last resort. It really is a last resort. I don't think for anything that we're trying to advocate for, eminent domain will be required at all.
I just want to add that according to my understanding, for the guidelines used in Bethel, the development plan of conservation development, you know what I mean? It focuses on the downtown area and the Stony Hill area as like the areas of development. So in terms of if there is discussion or concern about other areas outside of those two designated transit-oriented neighborhoods or areas, it's not something that was indicated in that report. I would assume that it's something that if residents are concerned about and interested in, it could be brought to the attention of the municipal government. In terms of these two sections, like with the walk audit, I don't think that that's necessarily an option, especially because it is a state road. So if it even were to be a potential option that was genuinely being discussed, it would only be on the offshoot roads that are town owned.
And actually had like a second part to this question. So I understand that that's a last resort option. But if we take the example of like Payne Road, which is an arterial road almost to Bethel, versus some of the other approach roads, it might be helpful, again, just a suggestion, to think of one-way roads. They're just so narrow, and especially during winters, it just gets hard. And I think I don't see a way that any of those can be expanded at all. So for such roads, maybe having some kind of one-way traffic consideration, so it could then allow bicycles and like other kinds of walking. Should probably, and again, I've taken Plain Road as an example. I'm more expert on all the roads in town. But as we move forward, having some of those one-way considerations, so we have enough of space to allow for bikes, I think.
Yeah, I would assume that that would also slow traffic down significantly on those residential roads. Yeah, thank you for your questions and suggestions.
Any other commissioners have any comments? Kelly or Tia, any comments?
No, I just want to extend my thanks again, Gabriella, and for the presentation and the hard work on this, the study and support of the other members. That's it.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly, for helping out, everybody for supporting and helping out as well. Yay, Bethel.
We do want to continue this conversation, so for anybody that wants to continue the conversation and be involved, please reach out to us through our email, and we will respond to that, and we will talk to you, of course. So thank you very much. Okay, so we can, anything else? No, we can get on with the rest of our agenda. Thank you, Gabriella, great job.
Thanks. Katie,
Oh, Katie, has something else?
yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
We didn't actually vote to approve the meeting minutes. We just voted to add it to the agenda.
Yeah, we did, we just voted to the meeting. The minutes, we voted.
We added it to the agenda, but we didn't vote to approve them.
Well, we did, oh, we didn't. Oh, I added it. Wow, I'm just moving right along. Okay, so does anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes from September 18th, 24?
so moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, sometimes I have to get pushed back on the path. Okay, so we can continue our commission reports. On Sustainable Connecticut certification, we've already mentioned it like now 3 times, yay. We have been approved for the bronze certification. There is an award ceremony on November 13th at the Catherine Hepburn Cultural Center in Old Saybrook, and some of us will be attending. And so if there's any other commissioners that want to attend, please do. It's on the November 13th between 4 and 7. And that's where we will get up on stage with all the other municipalities who have gotten different levels of certification. We will actually get a certification that can be displayed here at Town Hall. Yay. And a bunch of pictures and press. Yay. Those should be kind of fun. Any questions about that?
I
Yes.
just remembered I wanted to say out loud that the PDF of the summary report is linked on the Sustainable Bethel Commission agenda for tonight, if you guys are interested in having a copy for yourself.
Oh, which brings me to something that just popped into my brain. I don't know how we can post the, Mary, maybe we can figure out how to post the PDF of the report, of the summary report on the website. Yeah, that would be great to share. I'm not sure.
Town's website.
Yeah, I don't even know where that would go exactly, but that would be great. But, Katie, can we post that PDF link on our social? So this will also be on our social media. We can do that.
And I think the recording of this meeting will be on the Town of Bethel's YouTube channel.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Anything on Earth Day?
Just that It's April 26th next year. And we have 8 forms filled out so far. I'll be reaching out individually to people who have been involved in the past and see who else wants to join that day. But yes.
Some great news. Bethel Lions Club will be donating the saplings once again this coming year. So thank you, Kristen, for helping with that initiative and program. We were talking and we were thinking that maybe the sapling giveaway can be used as part of the flyer to encourage more people to attend. I know you're working on things like super hard at that, so I'm suggesting it now.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
So thank you, Bethel Lions Club.
Any other comments regarding Earth Day? No? Okay. All right, EV charging. So there are EV charging plan, which we talked about, that it was a partnership with us and of course the Economic Development Department and Titan Energy and Key Energy that is advancing. The plan will, I don't think it was presented last night, right? No, right?
No.
No, but until the next time, maybe?
No, it was presented.
Oh, it was. Oh, yes. So the plan, was it approved? Yeah, yay. The Board of Selectmen approved the plan. So there'll be
Move forward.
5, yeah,
To move forward.
to move forward with the plan. Yeah, they approved to move forward with the plan. So the plan, I'm going to be very simple here again. It includes 5 locations, mostly in the downtown area. So it's 1 here, 1 at each of the old railroad station, the new railroad station, the library, and at the high school. So this is like a phase 1 on public property. There is no cost to the town. The capital expense for that will be covered largely by the utility incentives, and then the balance through Keon Energy. So very exciting. The expectation, we hope, will be sometime spring, summer, I believe. Is that?
I'm not exactly sure.
Well, in 2025. So if it's not spring, it'll be in 2025. So that's great. So that's a phase 1. A phase 2, what would that look like? That would look like more of a public-private partnership with the private parking lots in town at that point. So we'll see how this all plays out. I'm very excited about it. There will also be a revenue share for the town. So that will be very exciting too, because if we want to expand or, there's some cost related to maintenance or anything like that, there'll be some money related to that. So we won't be using general fund. Related to what we had spoken about, the Transportation and Mobility Information Innovation Hub and launch. Well, we continue to meet with stakeholders regarding that. That's what I have on EV chargers and the Innovation Hub. Yeah.
I actually don't know what the current chargers are in town, but are the new ones supposed to be fast charging or are they?
My understanding is they're dual charge level 2.
Okay.
I believe. Let me see if I brought that little paper.
I think doesn't it have to do with how much power is being supplied to it? So I don't know if.
Yeah, I mean, the locations were scoped out because of the power that it was, to minimize that cost and be able to have the EV chargers. I don't think I have the exact, I didn't bring the whole presentation with me, but I could be wrong. But you know what? I thought I did this. I thought I forwarded you, but maybe not. And I apologize if I haven't. I will forward to you the presentation that we received from Titan Energy. So you have that, okay?
Excuse me, are the existing ones fast charging or?
No, and that they're really old and they break and it's a problem. Yeah,
But the current locations,
there's there's a train over there, right by the trains, right? There's 2 of them over by the train station.
yeah,
Right.
but near the old train station and in the new train station.
Yeah, so it'll be the old train station, the new train station, the library, town hall, and Bethel High School for this first phase 1.
Okay. I forgot what I asked. It's okay. We are curious to know like what type of charging there'll be.
I'm gonna forward that to you because I don't remember off the top of my head. Way too many things to spring to mind. Okay, forward. Hang on. I thought I did that, but I apologize that I didn't. Okay. Solar.
I don't have any updates since the last workshops that we've had. It's been updated, but no current plans yet, but by the next meeting, I'll have something to plan.
But let me just give you a little pat on the back here. Sunny put together two workshops related to solar education through a vendor panel. The first one was in person here at Town Hall, and it was actually Friday the 13th at night. We actually had 10 people show up. We had 10 people, and it went on for a while. People were engaged, asking a lot of questions. They were very interested. So that was really great. That's part of our job here, is to educate the public. And then the next one was virtual, was online, and we only had two, but those two people were very much involved and engaged and asked a lot of questions. And then I believe even some of the people from the in-person and the online continued the conversations with the vendors, and they were very interested in learning more about solar on their property.
Was there a recording of the
We-
online version?
Yeah.
There was,
You-
and I did send it.
Can you forward it to the commissioners?
Yeah, sure.
I posted it.
You
I
did
posted,
post it.
I did post it on social media. Yeah.
So it's on social media, so.
Yeah.
The education, there were a lot of great points in terms of any questions that the folks had, even for the future, we have a good reference and library in terms of the knowledge base. And I'm hoping that we will make use of that resource.
I think Kelly's trying to say something.
Kelly, are you talking?
No, I was just waiting. I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's a good resource for the town folks to use, and I wanted this to like sit for a bit before we kind of move forward with any residential based initiatives. For commercial, I really need to kind of look at what the potential event is there in town.
Yeah.
How many businesses actually own their own property and therefore will even consider within that set. So until I look at some data, I don't want to move forward or anything. Yeah.
And then the potential, like you mentioned, solar canopies on parking lots, maybe at the high school here, you know, that could be
Yeah,
an
that's-
opportunity too.
To relook at, yeah, some of those things, but yeah, as of today, I don't have anything new on it.
That's okay. You did a good job.
Yeah. I
Ellie.
just wanted to reiterate, right, that the fact that it was shared on social media, we don't know the reach of that. So I think it's great that we put it out there in you know, several areas. So thank you, Sunny. It was very informative. And I agree. I think it started the process. We answered a lot of our own internal questions. We gathered a lot of information so we can carry that conversation forward. And to reiterate the point, solar, it's coming up again, right? I'm talking about it in the walk audit. And I think that's just the beginning. So I wanted to applaud you and talk about all the additional reach rather than the people that were there. I think it was certainly much broader than that and certainly more impactful. That's it.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Catherine, also for
Yeah.
moderating.
Well, no, thank you for putting that together. It's very much appreciated. Anybody else have any questions, commissioners? Yeah.
Is the presentation recording on the town YouTube as well? Or-
No.
No, and I'm not sure how it's gonna work because
Because it was like
this was a
other people.
vendor.
Mhm.
Right, it
presenting.
wasn't an official meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
not sure
wondering.
how that policy works, so I
Yeah.
think we just keep it on our social for now. I mean, that's something to talk about definitely at some point. I agree with that, because you'll have some reach with that, but for now, and then we'll share that. You'll share that with the commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next, these are updates. We talked about our partnership, our potential partnership with the Westcon Student Steward Project collaboration. Gabriella and Dana will be leading that project. Just as to reiterate the background, Gabriella and I met with the two department heads at Westcon in the integrated biology department. And our goal is to partner with, the graduate students who are interested in, partnering with the town of Bethel on a specific project that benefits them related to their studies, and also the data that and information that's collected from that study will benefit the town of Bethel. We kind of narrowed it down to, looking at open space, since our survey indicates that one of the top priority for people is open space, and then the survey that the first selectman did related to their focus groups also highlights open space. So we want to find. So I'm going to hand it over to you guys to talk more about what you talked about.
We are in the process of making it all make sense, and what we have so far is essentially we're trying to figure out the structure of the internship program that would benefit the town and the student. And essentially we're looking at sort of two tiers, the sort of biological, ecological aspect of the research, and then also the
Policy governance.
aspect of it that from the conversations I had with the grad students, it is a part of what they're thinking in terms of their research. So it seems as though we should be able to find someone that could work together with us to, narrow down, for us to narrow down specific research topics to, again, the benefit of the town having open space, to looking at the different plots, I guess you could call, or lots of land that are designated open space, and if they're designated as such in perpetuity, or if it's changeable, and sort of what all that entails. And I think the ecological, biological focus would be which of these areas or sections would be the most beneficial to the health, like the environmental health of the region. We were also maybe potentially thinking about the impacts that all the different flooding has had in these open space areas, if any. We're still trying to figure it out. So
There's a lot of different directions they can go, but we have to kind of remain broad because we want it to be able to adapt to what the student is interested in. We're not trying to take them off their path. So once we have a student who's interested, we can work with them to narrow down like what they would be interested in focusing on.
mm-hmm. Yes.
But there's a lot of benefits and a lot of different ways you can approach it. So
Yes. Ultimately, I think the focus would be the health of the region, different benefits for having those open spaces protected internally as much as we can.
And the potential to expand that, to add to what we already have, with this study. So this ties into, we did a walkability study. The data and the information will continue to advance and be used for the benefit and sustainability of the town. And something like this, as a partnership with graduate students, this kind of data also will be used for the benefit of the town, sustainability of the town. That's kind of where we're headed. Anybody have any questions related to that? Tia, Kelly? Okay, so moving right along, senior homelessness. So I mentioned this last month as one of the I guess initiatives that is really important to the town is to and sustainability. It goes to sustainability is to really focus on it's home and there is homelessness. So that's part of sustainability. Health, that's a big word. So we're not going to solve the problem of homelessness, but narrowing it down to senior homelessness, which we do, although it's not in our face type of thing, there is an issue with that. So Kelly and I spoke last month, something that she's very interested in. So reached out to Megan Osworth, who is Director of Social Services, and met with her. Kelly, I'm going to hand this over to you in a second. I'm just introing you. I met with her, Lisa Plum, who is the head of the senior center, Mary O'Leary, who is head of Bethel's Commission on Aging, her selectman, Laura Basil, who is the director of the health department. And we basically brainstormed on a lot of different issues related to that. And then we established an action committee to focus on senior homelessness and put together some action initiatives focused on identifying the demographic more clearly, partnerships, the library, agencies, medical facilities, putting in a survey, churches to communicate the resources and assistance and the ways to reach this important group to help them in our community. So with that, Kelly, you have the floor.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a great meeting, and I think with the nature of the commission being a collaborative body, it was really nice having the different components there, from the Department of Aging to social services to the variety of other people that were there. Still in the information gathering piece as well. There's lots of components attached to this, and basically our role with the commission is going to be to kind of help spearhead a campaign, right? Essentially that's what it's going to be. We identified all kinds of ways that we could reach the demographic that we are trying to figure out how we can best do that. What kind of outlets do we do, considering it's a senior demographic that is not necessarily digitally connected, reading of the newspaper, right? We all understand what those challenges can be. But so the approach is going to be basically setting up a campaign and understanding the different components of that. We talked an awful lot about the challenges that those organizations that were there face every day in dealing with, certain crisis cases that come up. And our goal is to try to get in front of these crises. How do we reach these folks before it becomes a crisis? So we talked an awful lot about, how and when they get to these different departments when there is a major issue, and how we can kind of get in front of it. The case management happens. Megan does a great job. There's certainly mental health components associated with this. So it's not necessarily a very tangible, if we just put A and B in place, we can reach C and D. There are definitely, some roadblocks that are associated with mental health and behavioral differences with that particular demographic as well. So, the approach was, how do we then kind of get ahead of it and go to a younger demographic as we're talking about some behavioral change? If we're, maybe not being able to reach, say, like the 90 plus, for example, but how do we then take it back 10 or 15 years to try to put some things in place to try to get ahead, or what we were talking about, which is basically, trying to instill a human, behavior change. Then some of the other things we talked about is identifying what those incentives might be. We know that, money can be a potential incentives, but so can food. I know, for example, at the senior center, and I've worked with senior programs, right? Providing lunch to bring people around the table to educate them is usually a pretty good way. Connection with other people can be another incentive. We talked about, how do we change up some of the messaging? If we're trying to reach and focus on behavior, how do we change that messaging? i.e., we have identified that, right, within this demographic, perhaps there's a self-reliancy or I don't want to deal with any of this. If, for example, if there's an emergency, if this is my time to go, this is my time to go kind of, behaviors or mentality. So for an example of, changing the message of, you're not necessarily being self-reliant, but perhaps not being a burden to the family or the town, right? So trying to change, how some of the information is put out there. How do we try to alter that behavior change? And then the other thing, which I'm pretty excited about, is looking at other models. You know, someone brought up the models in Japan where, you know, seniors are honored, and some of their messaging. They talked about, for an example, one of the approaches is, you know, to kind of, you know, reach where somebody is trusting of you or listening to what you say, bringing in laughter first, right? It kind of breaks it. It opens up that trust barrier. And some of these tools are working in other areas. So I think for us here, and I don't mean us in Bethel, but here in the US, can certainly learn a lot from what's happening in other countries, i.e. Japan does a great job. So we're also going to look into perhaps successful models that exist in other places rather than reinventing the wheel. So doing a little research on that end as well. But you know, putting this kind of this senior committee together as we talk about how we move forward, and then putting it on paper, which is, you know, something I do in my daily life, right? By putting this campaign together and structuring it so we're actually looking at it on paper so we can move. There was lots of ideas flowing around, and just the first step of just capturing it before we have our next meeting. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. You know, I'm happy to, you know, answer other questions, and you know, certainly open to suggestions and ideas and all of that. So yeah,
One of
Gabby.
the things, one of the other, no, that's okay. One of the other things we talked about was the digital divide, because many seniors are not connected digitally. They can't afford it. They don't have access. There's an awareness issue. So it's going to where they're at, which is really
Mhm.
important. So anybody else have comments or questions?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a suggestion for messaging.
Yep.
I think the concept of maintaining independence may be something to consider. For the age group demographic, I think maintaining independence is a goal. So maybe considering that sort of as a perspective for messaging. And also in terms of accessibility and communications, providing these informations in different languages to, again, access different people.
Thank you. Both of those are helpful, Gabby. We did talk about, actually, somebody who was at the meeting who is, you know, of that demographic, also said the same thing, that keeping that independence is huge for them personally. So I think reiterating that is helpful, and I made note of that. And the languages, that's the first time it's come up. So thank you very much for that point.
No problem.
Sorry, yeah. Kelly, I had a question. So do we have any data on how severe this problem is in Bethel? How many seniors might be affected?
I think we talked about, you know, Megan said that she had those numbers. Megan is social services. That's something that we didn't receive at the meeting, but something that I believe that she was going to gather some more figures. If I heard you correctly, Sunny, I'm not sure I caught the whole question. But if that's the question, that'll be something that she's going to be working on to bring to the table for the next meeting, the actual figures.
Okay, got you. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, that was the question. Thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioner?
Just another idea, maybe advertising or, you know, being at different food pantries in the area may be a good way to connect with people.
Yep.
And I know from volunteering at the Bethel Food Pantry, there is an increasing number of families with food insecurity, which is often connected to housing insecurity. So the need is increasing.
Yeah, and as we grow, those numbers will probably increase, right?
I mean, as the economy.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Based on that, Gabby, do you have an idea of what the figures are within that demographic. Do you keep those figures at the food pantry?
I'm sure the project coordinator has figures. I personally have never seen them, but it could be a conversation. Yeah.
That'd be great. I know you're there every week. You know, this is going to take a little bit of time, but if you wouldn't mind just posing that question, just to see or which direction we would go to get those figures. I think that's another geographical point for us to gather data. I know, of course, it all goes through social services, but I think that you're right. A lot of those people are already insecure and are, you know, economically challenged in some way. So trying to identify if there is figures based on certain age brackets and what those age brackets are. Is it just, you know, young, adult, senior? Okay, but just to know what and how they track would be helpful.
Yeah, I know at some point it is the same data that Megan uses because it's a different program. So yeah, I can ask.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Is there anything else related to this?
And just to kind of, you know, one more, you know, thing, I think that we all have really, you know, great points and have a lot to offer here. So once we get it on paper, I just want to assure you that it'll be distributed and I'll be looking for input and comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Kelly. Quickly on Bethel Arts and the Community Match Fund through Sustainable Connecticut, that is moving forward. They have a planning committee meeting, but Patricia had contacted me because some of you were interested in participating in that. If you are interested, please reach out to her. If you want to be part of that, I am not available that day. I would have normally gone because I'm participating on a panel presentation.
Do you know the date?
Yeah, it's October 23rd at noon at Sprouts. It's lunch.
Okay.
Because everybody has to eat. It's better to eat when you're talking. So if anybody's interested in being part of that, this is definitely moving forward. So very excited about this, that we will bring some money into Bethel and related to the arts. And the launch or the unveiling will be on Earth Day on April 26th next year. So very excited about that. Lastly, a couple things. I did mention last time that I would like to do a public presentation about where we're at in 2025, hopefully in the first quarter, and also combine that with a newsletter as another way to communicate what we're doing. I have drafted something. It's very at the beginning. So I would like all of you or some of you to be part of that conversation and your insights. So please get back to me probably by next week if that's something that you would like to be in. But it's already done, but we need some. It can't just be Kathy putting this together and then presenting. I really would like your input and your insights about how the presentation should be when we do that, and the newsletter, which will be kind of aligned. There will be sort of aligned. So, any questions?
Could you share a draft with us?
Oh yeah, but I want to know that you want to do that. Yes, absolutely. But please let me know. Yeah, that is what I'm planning on doing. But please let me know if that's something that you want to be involved with, and it would be really helpful to have all of that. Okay. Is there anything else that anybody wants to talk about?
So just a quick update on the solar, the recording, shared it. Okay.
Yes.
Just forward it to.
Thank you.
Yes, you have it in your inbox. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe should also share it with Mary, and
Yeah.
maybe there's a way to have that.
Mary, are you on Sustainable Bethel email or should I send?
No, just send it to her email here and deal directly.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anything else? Okay. Next meeting is November 20th, week before Thanksgiving. And if there's nothing else, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor? Thank you, everybody. And thank you to all of you for hanging out for the whole night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kelly. We'll see you
Thanks,
soon.
guys. You got it.